Do you want to know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
And welcome to Real Talk Radio 97.5. You're listening to John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio and a very special guest in the house, Corporal Trent Near. How are you doing, sir?
Not bad. Yourself?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have a couple of thanks to send out to Remax Palm Realty. They are a sponsor of our antenna. Also, Allstate Insurance Group, Hardin Insurance Group on Toledo Blade, another sponsor of our radio station, and also Lions Title and Trust. They do an amazing job with closings. If you need anything like that in real estate, Lions Title and Trust are your people. And let's talk a little bit about traffic. How about that today?
Absolutely. What do you want to talk
about? Kind of give an overview of what a traffic unit does.
Well, our main purpose, obviously, is to prevent crashes.
Yes.
Ensure everybody gets where they're going safely. So we go out and we hit high traffic areas, high crash areas, and we try to do high visibility enforcement out there and just kind of keep people driving. If you drive decent, everything should go well. So,
and we've got the I think Indy 500 happening on 75 every day.
Yes.
Some people call it the Autobahn. I guess you could qualify it for both. Do we monitor 75 also?
Absolutely, we do. Actually, last week in particular, I was checking all of our guys' tickets. Some of the highest speeds I've seen. We had a couple north of 100 on the interstate. We had north of 100 on US 41 and north of 100 miles an hour on River Road. So last week, people were just really getting after it. I'm not sure why, but we had several very high speeds on the interstate. But we are indeed out there pretty regularly and assisting FHP and SSO with enforcement out there.
So let me approach this a little different with speed. Excessive, I think excessive is 100 miles an hour or above.
I agree.
Really, to me, it's 80 miles an hour above. But let's talk about the 100 mile an hour ticket. So
okay.
if you ride a 100 mile an hour ticket, what happens to the person behind the wheel of the car at 100 miles an hour or more?
Anything north of 30 miles an hour over the posted speed limit is an automatic court date. We don't issue a fine. We don't do anything. They have to contact the clerk of the court, and they're given a court date. The fines for that, they range from $500 to $1,000, depending on driving record. Excuse me. Sorry.
It's okay.
You're looking at a possible 1-year suspension of your license, driving improvement courses. It's pretty drastic. It can be life altering at 30 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Well, and I will say this because I used to work at Level 1 Trauma in Columbus, Ohio. There's something to be said about somebody getting in a wreck at 100 miles an hour too.
Yeah, speed is
life
altering. It's one of the biggest factors in our THI, because all of our traffic unit is THI certified, which is traffic homicide. So speed plays a huge part in a lot of our fatalities and our major crashes with serious bodily injury.
The citizens of Northport, we are we're blessed to have one of the best police departments, I think, in the state. And you guys do a phenomenal job with that. But can you talk about the level of pride and commitment you put into the traffic unit? Not that it's different than any other, but can you talk about that as far as leadership and what leadership tries to get across to the citizens with the traffic unit itself?
Yeah, from the top down, traffic, all of our specialty units are very well trained, very proactive. We're out there every day. Again, our main focus is to ensure everybody in Northport gets where they're going safely. So we are constantly training. Our classes, let's say a traffic homicide course, there's several courses you take. They're 80 hours each. They're very in depth, very strenuous. It's a lot of mathematics, and it's a very tough 2 week. Each one's a 2 week class, and all of our guys are trained very well in that. So,
we got introduced today, just prior to getting on the air here, but we were talking about history. You've got Tony Donahue and Fish, who
yep.
were both part of this show. Oh gosh, I would almost have to believe that was 5 or 6 years ago when both of those guys were on. Several others on at that point too, but that was really the start of the traffic unit
right
in Northport. So there's been a lot of transition of police officers go through the traffic unit. Is that normal for a city to go through that?
So Tony transitioned over to the K9 unit. He's running the K9 unit. Fisher actually promoted, so he's a commander now. We don't have a lot of turnaround in the officer level, but our supervisors are moving to different locations, and they're promoting and doing great things. Our current traffic sergeant, we have two of them. We have a day shift and a night shift traffic unit. Our current day shift sergeant is Sergeant Heddyberg. He's former Highway Patrol traffic homicide certified and an excellent leader. He is very knowledgeable when it comes to all things traffic related. We're in a really good spot right now with some great leadership and some great training. So,
I talk about this a lot because as a realtor, I'm always in my truck. I'm always driving around. I love the fact that I can get across town in minutes in Northport. We're not Tampa. We're not these bigger cities, and yet we are a large landmass. And there's a lot to patrol when it comes to the driving in Northport, let alone the citizenry and the land mass itself. Can you kind of talk about speed limits and then explain to citizens that safety gap of speed, that, hey, when you're looking down, don't panic, but slow down and be aware.
Right.
Don't excessively speed.
Every officer has his own rules, right? Sets of parameters. For me, I usually don't really catch my attention until about 10 miles an hour over. But once you've caught my attention, you've got my attention. So 10 to 15 is where I'll really consider start writing tickets. 15 over, you're almost guaranteed a citation with me. But like I said, every officer has its own set of parameters and set of everything. So it really comes down to the officer. I definitely wouldn't do more than 7 over to play it safe. But
and that's good for people to hear. Do you find that when people realize that 7 is it, do you see more people pushing that number, or do you see them kind of trying to stay and work within that range?
Everybody pushes it a little bit. Everybody wants to get where they're going just a little bit quicker, save a little bit of time. So it's not uncommon to see 5, 7, 8 over. That's why I said I'll give people around 10 usually, but 5 and 7 is very, very common.
I want to go back to excessive speed because we do have that here.
Yes, sir.
And we have that on. I think partly on Sumter at times, rush hour especially. I see some motorcyclists we've had in the past like to do wheelies past the police department and kind of show off and do their thing, which is I'm a motorcyclist myself, and I just cringe and I want to shake them myself because it's just stupid the way people really do this. But What are some of the things that you would like to tell people about trying to stay safe, and then add on the fact that it's not just them that they may harm, it's
Right.
others, and that's a big thing.
Well, going back to the motorcycles, we have recently just purchased our own motorcycles. So
Absolutely.
two of our traffic officers are now motor certified, and they're out there on motorcycles doing their thing. They're doing a great job with it. Those bikes are very maneuverable, easy to get in and out of traffic, catch up to people. But going back to the speed issue, right? These are all residential roads. So at an excessive speed and an egregious speed, let's say you have a kid step off the sidewalk or a car pull off of a side road, you have no time to react. You have no time to do anything, and that's going to lead to a catastrophic ending, unfortunately. So keep it in the realm of sensibility, because like I said, those excessive speeds, you just don't have time to react. And if you do react, the car's not going to respond the way you want it to. You're going to lose control, and bad things are going to happen.
And Rich Suggs commented that we really need to do something on the interstate. 90 to 100 miles is so common, and I agree with him.
Absolutely. Like I said, we've been working with FHP and SSO, so we're going to be getting out there a little bit more. But the excessive speeds out there, our nighttime guys are out there a little bit more than the day shift. We handle all crashes within the city as well. So a lot of times during the day shift, we're in the city handling crashes, but our night shift, they've been out on the interstate a lot the past couple months and just hammering people with excessive speeds.
This has a direct connection to insurance and your amount of money that you have to pay if you're an excessive speeder. There's some real issue there.
Yes.
How many times do you get the advantage of taking courses to, one, clean up your driver's record, or two, how does that look to you when you pull somebody over and they've had 3 speeding tickets in a year? What happens at that point?
So the first part of that question is, you are allowed to take a driver improvement course once a year, up to 5 times in your lifetime. Once that's done, you just accrue points after that. Obviously, I take people's driving records into consideration, depending if it's obviously we have discretion, so we can kind of bring the price down a little bit, or I take that into consideration when I'm looking at how I'm going to handle the citation. A full boat ticket, or cut them a little bit of a break. So, but yeah, you get one.
Go ahead.
Oh, you get one per year, 5 a lifetime.
And so you, when you look at somebody's speed,
right?
Let's say that they're a newbie and they're 12 miles an hour over. What's that ticket normally run?
If it's 12 over, it's going to be, if you get a full boat speeding ticket, 1 to 9 is 131. 10 to 20 is 256. 20 to 30 is 281, and then anything over 30 is an automatic court date.
And so I'm going to stick with the automatic court date because we talked about it at the beginning, and we also talked about kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. And 7 is kind of like that. Keep it under 7. If you're under 7, you're probably safe, but you're also
probably
safe.
Probably good.
Probably, and there's no guarantee.
Right.
Okay, but there's a more likely guarantee over 7 that you are going to get pulled in a ticket. And I got to tell you, on 75, if you're doing 7 miles an hour over, you're not being looked at, because there's 200 people out there just around you doing 15 over.
Right.
And can you get people for the excessive speed, but the 2 and 3 and 4 lane changes at a time maneuvers that are happening out there?
Yes, you can. You can get them for aggressive driving, improper lane changes. There's several things we could go after out on the interstate like that. But speed's going to be the main issue with that. So if you're doing all that stuff, speed's the primary contributor to that. So.
Right. And all those play in. If you're 100 miles an hour over and you go into court and you've got a list of other things that you did attached with that. And the reason I'm highlighting this is it happens every day. This
Right.
isn't like an oddball case. We could go out and sit on 75 right now during the show, and I believe that we would probably see 10 or 15 cars excessively speeding if we just sat on top of a bridge and gunned them down.
Yeah.
You know, you guys see this all the time, but you see the end result of excessive speed and accidents. Can you talk about what you've dealt with when it comes to these accidents that happen with excessive speed and how you guys deal with that?
Everybody's a little different when it comes to dealing with it. Unfortunately, it's something we see day in and day out. That's why we're so adamant about getting after the speeders in the city. There's nothing worse than having to go making a notification that, hey, your son or daughter is not coming home tonight because they were being stupid. They were excessively speeding. Nothing hits like that does. So obviously we want to prevent that for all parties involved. And that's why we're out there hammering speeds.
And you know, this is something that if you're a parent and you're listening on the radio, I'm live on the internet right now, Real Talk, on Facebook and YouTube. John Rawlings, Real Talk. If you type that in, you'll find this. Share this information with your sons and daughters, and get them on the right mindset with their driving. Some are newer drivers, but good drivers. I want to talk about the good drivers that are out there now and the effects that the high rate of speed has on them, because there are a lot of people that pass on the left in the fast lane, but there are a lot of people that pass on the right, and when you're doing 70 in the middle lane and somebody flies by you at 110, there's a lot of fear that excessive speed puts into a mindset,
Right.
especially with a young driver. Have you seen that scenario cause an accident?
It's a lot of times when you have something like that, you have the lane switching and the vehicle in the right lane is just going significantly slower that they didn't see or didn't anticipate being there. So if you're at that excessive speed and you switch over and all of a sudden there's a car moving 40 miles an hour slower than you, like it's pretty much stopped. And that's what causes the biggest issues in something like that, is that surprise car that you didn't see or anticipate being there.
So how long have you been in the speed unit itself?
I came in January of this year.
Okay. So what did you do prior?
I've been here for 14 years. Started out on the road like normal. Became an FTO. Went into the detective bureau for a little while. Came back to the road as an OIC or corporal. Then transitioned into the traffic unit in January as the corporal.
And with your background, is this one of the biggest pet peeves that we have in Northport is the driving in excessive speed?
I think the number one complaint to the city manager is traffic complaints. He has reached out to the PD, and we are currently growing the unit. That's why we got the motorcycles. We've went to undercover cars, like incognito cars, to help with that. Because obviously, if you see a black and white car, you change your driving pattern, right?
Yep.
Well, I don't want to see your change driving pattern. I want to know how you normally drive. That way, we can educate you and kind of slow you down. And it's not all about tickets. It's about education. That's my biggest thing, is I want to educate you and say, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. Like last week, we had was Christmas break. All the kids were off. All my speeders got the same speech. It's like, hey, the kids just got new bicycles. They just got new scooters. They're not in school right now. And we're out here 15, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. And you have these kids out of school with new toys, new bicycles. They're going to be in the roadways. That's an issue. So, again, we want to educate people and slow them down and just have them drive on the up and up.
You know, it's nice to hear. And I, with even in the past with Officer Donahue and Officer Fisher, when they talked about it, they had that same mindset, and it's the educational piece. And we've all come through this over our years of living, that oh, the city does this just to make money. It's all about dollars. It really isn't about just the
No,
dollars.
we make pennies on the dollar for each citation that's written. Again, I care for the people in the community. I want them to be safe. And if we can slow people down and have them safe, that's my main goal.
Right.
Tickets work sometimes, and sometimes just talking to somebody works. If you kind of break it down and put it in perspective, you might be able to open somebody's eyes and change their driving habits.
Do we do anything in the schools now as far as and I know we don't have our resource officers, but is there ever an opportunity for you guys to go into schools and talk to the driver's ed classes or kind of give some insight there and show some support that way?
So we have done a couple of things at the Northport High School this year. We went there with it's called Fatal Vision goggles. It's these goggles that you put on, and it is sent to represent different levels of intoxication. And we have them put them on, and then myself or Sergeant Heddyberg was the one who was with me. We ran them through field sobriety just to show how off you would be or how disoriented it can be if you're impaired. So we have done that. And at every event, like we have National Night Out coming up on the 16th, or excuse me, the 14th. I'm sorry. We will be out there with our traffic unit, and we're going to have brochures, and we'll be talking to people and trying to educate them out there as well. So we're trying to get involved as much as humanly possible, and we're definitely getting into the schools and working with them to spread the education as well.
That's fantastic because, I hate to sound like a broken record on this, but it's easier to get into the minds of the younger than it is some of the older people who have these habits that are, some of them have been driving recklessly and getting away with it for decades, and they haven't felt the wrath of their own driving skills yet. But I got to tell you, I'd rather gamble than gamble on driving excessive speed. There's sometimes there's no recovery, and there's other times where you wish there was no recovery. Working in the trauma center itself and seeing it firsthand, there's a lot of lives changed when there's a car accident and you survive.
Metal can be very unforgiving. So
yeah, I go back and there was 27 years medical, but about 10 or 12 of them I spent at Grant Medical Center, and it was a level 1 trauma. And you guys see it, and we saw it. And the funny thing, a lot of things changed. Police units change, road structures change, speed limits change. The one thing that never changes is excessive speed and end result of a crash. The cars have gotten better. They're not as heavy anymore, but I got to tell you, some of these videos that we have out there watching these cars shrink from 8 feet long to 4 feet long. There's a body in there too.
Yeah.
And those are not things that a police officer wants to walk up onto, let alone a first responder who is coming out to the scene of an accident, be a life flight or an ambulance. Is there any thoughts that you have that you want to say to the folks here in Northport and surrounding areas about coming through Northport excessively?
Don't speed. Wear your seatbelts. Those two things in themselves will save lives and years of bad things happening. Just seatbelts and slow down a little bit, and good things will happen. It's that simple. Rich brought up the point of business trucks. Do you guys look at the business owners? And I don't want to say with a different light, but I want to say when you're a business guy and you've got your name all over the side of your truck. I was sitting, and this was, you might have been here for this wreck. In fact, I know you were. I just don't know that you were on duty that day. I was on Toledo Blade. It was a Sunday morning, and I was at Bobcat,
and I was on the opposite side of the entry, and there was a massive, uh, oversized pickup or tow truck
Okay.
that came down 70, came from 75, and he was roaring down the road. We were all stopped at a traffic light. Box truck next to me, and he hit the back of that box truck at, it had to be 45 to 55 at least. Um, it, I, it moved the trucks. You're talking about a big box truck. It moved the box truck.
Right.
So I can't imagine if that was a smaller vehicle, if that have happened. And you guys have seen that and worse. But you know, we've all had these close calls. We've all had those moments. Is there any point to not waking up now and just saying enough is enough? I'm just going to slow it down. I I know you guys look for magic words because
Right.
you tried to educate. You're trying to get the public to listen to what you're saying, and you're giving good examples, and you're giving the reasons why. You're looking for that magic word too.
We're looking for the magic words, but it's just like anything else. People aren't going to make any changes in their lives until they're ready, until they're impacted in some way, unfortunately. And hopefully it never comes to that. But, you know, if that's the case, then the tickets will get bigger. The fines will get, the fines get stiffer, suspensions on your license. But, we pull over. I may pull over one person once in a lifetime. I may pull over the same person every week. It's just each person's different, and each person needs to have that reason that they are going to change their habits.
They you had said something earlier, and my mind just picked up on it. And I want to talk about leadership within not just the police department, but you had mentioned the city manager, Jerome Fletcher.
Yes, sir.
And I want to talk a little bit with you about what that means to have the upper echelon of city management looking at this situation and saying we have got to do a better job, even though we already know you're doing what you can.
Right.
There's this fight to do more, and that just doesn't start with you guys on the road. That goes to deputy chief, that goes to chief, that goes to everybody above you, including city staff and management. And I do give a lot of kudos to city manager Fletcher for really being a guiding light to I think shining a light on some of these issues and making them as big as what they truly are.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so from the top down, from City Manager Fletcher, Chief Garrison, Deputy Chief Morales, they are all 100% on board. Due to the amount of complaints we've received, we are growing the unit. We've incorporated the motorcycles, which we were fighting to get for years. We finally got them. We've incorporated the unmarked cars. We have two more officers selected for the unit. So we're going to continue to grow the unit, and we're going to tackle this. We're going to hit it head on and hopefully try to get it under control here as best as we can. But we have nothing but support from the administration and even over at City Hall. So it's been amazing. It's making our job significantly easier. And it's been very good so far.
I grew up in a small little village of Valley View, and Ralph Meredith was our chief of police with our 3 or 4 police officers that gave us the reputation of don't speed through our little village or
Right.
we will get you. We're kind of developing that same mindset here, and we're a major city of 97,000 people and growing to 250
Yep.
at a rapid pace. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. If we have that reputation that if you mess around, you get hemmed up in Northport, well, it's going to keep people at bay or keep people in check a little bit. It's our job. Like my job is to keep everybody else safe. If you're going to drive excessively, then you're going to get that citation because everybody else in the city is my concern at that point. I want to make sure everybody else is safe.
You know, in talking with Deputy Chief Morales, his statements to a lot of things are, if we can make Northport a safer place, we're going to exploit whatever we have to exploit
Absolutely.
to do that. Do you still get complaints when you pull people over after you explain everything?
Nobody's happy to get a big citation. It's just the nature of the beast. Like they'll never admit that they were wrong and they want to argue, but it is what it is. All of our equipment is top tier equipment. If I say you were doing excessive speeds, I promise you were doing excessive speeds. So, but yeah, people argue. They love to argue, but I'm not going to argue on the side of the road. That's why we have court.
Yeah, you know, I've watched you guys. I've been with you guys with when it's fun and conversations and just hanging out at lunch or wherever. I've seen you guys. There's a huge camaraderie with all you guys. We just lost a police officer down in Port Charlotte. Things like that, they matter to us here in Northport too. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the loss of life, not just, you know, with Charlotte County, but that's the most recent one here in our area directly. But how did that affect you guys?
Obviously, with the type of job we have, it's a brotherhood. It really is. As soon as we found out the events that had happened, everybody here mounted up and we went into Charlotte to assist any way we could. You know, we put officers on the road in Charlotte County. We were helping them block off roads, securing the scenes. And it's tragic. It's terrible. You know, we come to work every day. We have families we want to go home to. Nobody wants that to happen. You know, we're out here trying to keep everybody else safe, but unfortunately that is part of the job for what it is, you know. But everybody bonded together and we lifted them up the best that we could. So,
you know, you a traffic unit, you do that when you walk to somebody's front door at a scene of an accident. You're doing the same thing. You talk about the brotherhood, and I 100% agree with you. 100%. There is a massive brotherhood within the police force, within the fire department. I got to just think that it's even that way when it comes to City Hall and its workers. I just wish that we could teach our neighbors there's a brotherhood within that organization too.
Right.
That structure, if we thought about others, when we're looking down at the speedometer and it says 90 and we decided 105 is okay. You know, I've always loved fast cars. I've always loved to be behind the wheel of my 71 with a 307 Chevy engine that I loved my Ventura. I looked like a Nova. And if anybody knows muscle cars, they know a Nova and how much fun they were. You know, the Camaros of old. Well, we're now getting Camaros and all these special cars back. And
right.
they're now designed not to be the family car transition to the muscle car. They are now the muscle car. They're coming out of the industry with muscle behind it. Do you think that also causes a lot of problems now with that mindset of, hey, look what I got? And
yeah, absolutely. You have, like you said, the newer cars are coming out with these LS motors and they're putting out just insane amounts of horsepower right off the factory floor.
right.
You get somebody who's inexperienced with that, and that could be a bad situation. You got all that power, very little experience, and that it could lead to something tragic. So, back in the day, 300, 400 horsepower was a lot. You're getting after it. And now those are like the family cars are 300-400. Now we're coming up to 500-600. It's insane. These Dodges that are out there, the Hellcats and Demons or whatever they're called. Yeah, I mean, supercharged right off the showroom floor. It is an insane amount of power for the roadway. But
And really, these cars are they're doing excessive speeds and they don't have those engines.
Right.
You know, I've seen everybody pushing, you know, any type of car you have to its limit as far as speed goes. And
Yes.
there are some cars that pass me and I'm like, holy cow, do you realize that when you get hit in that car, a seatbelt is not gonna save you?
So what people don't, I guess, know or comprehend is the cars for the road aren't designed for that kind of stuff. The brakes aren't designed to work. You know, if you're at a high speed and you're on those brakes a lot, your brakes are going to fail. Just there's the suspension at those speeds. There's a lot of stuff that goes into cars that can go that fast, and if you're pushing around a normal car, it's just not a good combination.
It is not, and you know it's frustrating for the citizens. How frustrating is it for you in law enforcement? Um, it's sort of like the repetition of your day never stops.
Right.
And if you're in traffic, it's a grind because that's all you're doing. Well, it isn't, but it is.
Right.
You know,
we stay busy for sure. So
what is it that you do to not have that edge of anger towards some people?
Just never really developed it, so it's kind of natural. I treat everybody the same right across the board. Be decent with me, I'm decent with you. Everybody makes mistakes, so I don't hold any grudges. I don't get angry too often. So it's never really been an issue for me. Not sure. Just lucky, I guess.
Well, and I ask that because the truth of the matter is especially after seeing some of these accidents and knowing what caused it, I would think there would be a tendency to sharpen the edge a little bit for the next couple days after that, because you know I know when we saw stuff in the hospital, we actually made lists and gave them to each other who we wanted to operate on us, who, you know, if anything ever happened to me, we knew what we wanted and how we wanted to handle it. And we'd all talk about that stuff. And I think that's kind of the crutch we all had. That was our brotherhood.
Right.
Do you guys do the same thing?
Oh yeah, we get together. We talk about the excessive speeds, crashes we've had, just poor decisions that put people in poor situations that we had to go out to on crashes. So absolutely, we discuss all that stuff.
The young drivers, you know, they cost us parents a lot of money.
Yes.
Because as they become first-time drivers, the cost of putting them on an insurance policy is already high. I remember getting my first ticket. I didn't like it. Nobody ever does. And you're going to laugh. I still question my first ticket because I know I stopped at the stop sign.
Right.
But I had no proof, and I had the jacked up car, and I was the young kid. Times were different back then, though, a little bit. But when you look at things like that with the young drivers, when you get a chance to engage, do you find them to be more cognitive after you talk to them of what points you were trying to make?
We have a lot of very receptive young people in the city of Northport, fortunately. A lot of the encounters I've had, I'm able to talk to them, may make a couple jokes, kind of build up a rapport with them, and then kind of discuss the actual severity of what could have happened. And I've seen a lot of people who are very open, very receptive. Fortunately, I haven't had a whole lot of closed-minded, juveniles that talked back or tried to argue. So
that's actually good to hear.
Very fortunate. So
yeah, that's actually good to hear. I mean, it's I'll bet that if you go city to city to city right now, there are very few traffic police officers, and I can brag about you guys because you've done it on my show numerous times. We've got police conversation once a month with the Deputy Chief Morales. Chief supports it across the board, trying to get the education out to the citizens on what happens there. We've got Chief Titus, who once a month he takes the second Monday of the month, and we talk about the fire department and all that happens there. When you bring these things to the forefront, you're really trying to get people just wake up enough, just get started thinking about change. Yeah, and you're right. You can't change a lot of people with a conversation, but I'm sure that you felt like, just in what you're saying and what you've said, that you feel like you've had that moment to change a few people along the way.
100%. Like I said, I've had some very receptive people, especially last couple of weeks. I said with the holidays, I put it into perspective about the bicycles and the kids in the streets, and a lot of people were like, I didn't even think about that. It's the holidays. I'm busy. I'm concerned about X, Y, and Z. I didn't think about the other people, the kids in the streets, and they seemed very receptive. So, time will tell if we see them again or if we don't.
So can we expect in the city of Northport to see more traffic stops in 25?
Hopefully not. Hopefully everybody slows down. But
that was a great answer. That was a great answer.
So, but yeah, we're going to be out here in force, and we'll be doing what we're paid to do. So,
and we've got the motorcycle police, and I anytime that you guys are in an event, I see the motorcycle guys, and I'm always gonna walk up and say hi to them because I ride myself. And right. I saw one today. I was heading on Price over to Sumter off Toledo Blade, and I ride and I respect the ride. We've got to keep our eyes out for just not motorcyclists, but our officers on motorcycles the same way. They are part of the fabric of what you're trying to do now with the unit itself, and it does give you a lot of leverage that you didn't have before.
Yes.
Does that help on 75?
I'm not sure we've had them out there just yet, just for safety concerns. We had the Palm Beach incident not too long ago. I believe it was Palm Beach, where three motorcycle officers were killed. Their main thing is going to be Price and Tamiami Trail, where they can get in and out of traffic real good. We'll probably keep the cars out on I-75 just for
safety
purposes. Yeah.
And nice to hear that word. You've used a couple words in here. You used the safety part for citizens, and now you're using it for the police officers themselves.
My job is to keep everybody in the city of Northport safe, even my guys. So
yeah, no doubt. I get it. That was one incident that I had forgotten about, that because you see the police officers in other states on the freeways, and they're lined up, and there's a lot of motorcycle police officers that do that. Do you feel like Toledo Blade is a focal point too for the speed patrol?
That is one of the main corridors that I hammer. Speeds out there are not usually, but they are in excess of 60 pretty regularly. And getting back to the other topic of safety, that is also one of the main thoroughfares where we enforce the move over law to keep our guys safe. For those that don't know, if you see an officer or anybody broken down, or any kind of emergency lights, tow truck, ambulance, fire engine, police officer, deputy, you have to move over one lane or slow down to 20 miles an hour below the posted speed limits to keep us safe as well. That is one of our pet peeves, and that is something that if you get stopped for, you will more than likely get a citation for.
Yeah, I had a friend who made that critical error, thought he was slow enough, and was not. Immediately got a citation and called me on the phone and said, "Hey, did you know?" And I said, "Yes, I did." Being on here with you guys for 7 years and talking about the police department and everything, citizens need to wake up and they need to pay attention, and we all need to share this information. So the listeners out there right now, if you can share this content, please do so. It's a big deal, not just for the citizens here, but anyone that's coming through our city, maybe even for the very first time to see if they want to live here, and they get involved in a high speed accident or get T-boned somewhere. Let's just all take 25 and slow it down a bit. And I think the one thing that I've noticed that you keep talking about is the respect factor. You give it, and so you expect to get it back. And I think we all need to learn to respect the road again, um, and really respect what our vehicles can do to change the lives of others.
Yes.
I'm a lot of times these drivers that cause these accidents don't survive, but the mayhem that they leave behind, it sometimes is more tragic than one death.
It's life altering for the people involved, for families involved.
Yeah.
It changes the whole course of the person's life. So,
Every time I do a show like this, I think of all the old days where I was in the hospital and having these conversations with parents after, and we talked about the vehicles, we talked about the crashes and how they don't change. The other side that never changes is why, because that's always, why did that person do that? Why? And we see that all the time, and I'm sure that is something you guys deal with too.
Yeah, that's a lot of times on the big crashes. That's one of the ones we're trying to figure out. If we have a major crash with a serious bodily injury or, God forbid, a fatality, we go back 24 hours and everybody who's involved, what were you doing 24 hours prior to the accident? What'd you do building up to the accident? We want to know what got us here and why did it get us here?
Wow, so, we dig that far back.
Yeah, for what we do, for a serious bodily injury or fatality, yeah, absolutely. Because our job is to figure out exactly what happened and determine, why did it happen and see what we can do to prevent it from happening again. So we want to know everything about that person 24 hours in advance. What was he doing? Where was he at? Who was he with? What do you have for dinner? I want to know everything about him.
So we actually run that, and I don't want to use the word criminal, but it's kind of criminal at the same, and it can be.
It can be.
So it very much can be. So you're running an investigation, really top-notch investigation.
Absolutely.
To find out all the ins and outs. I've had a couple people from Allstate chime in and get some thumbs up, and so they're listening. But that's the other side of this, is that people need to be aware of, is that every bad decision you make on a road, it affects what you're going to pay in your car insurance. And with things going up and out of this world, car insurance is not coming down. We talked about the big cars that are on the road, and they're, some of those, the Hellcats are like $100,000, and there's guys that own them for less than a day and they're totaled, and I shrug every time I think about it, and I see these accidents alongside the road, and we all slow down. We got the rubberneckers out there. I wonder how many people actually slow down enough to realize they could have caused that with what they were doing as they were driving up to that point.
All right. I'm sure it crosses people's minds. So, it's just stuff. I don't know. And back to the insurance, though, if you get a DUI or a 30 over, I can't imagine. Like, thankfully I've never had to look for insurance after something like that, but it's got to triple the rates, I would assume.
I would imagine. It's hard to believe that anything would, I've never been through that. I think, like, knock on wood everywhere. I've had my speeding ticket, so I've learned my lesson. I did that young. worked in the hospital and learned my lesson at the hospital of what not to do, because when you're cleaning up the mess, your eyes are open to a whole lot of different things, and you guys see that. I think that's what that impresses me more with you guys when you go into the high schools and you have these conversations, because the firsthand conversation that you can have from the visual effect of excessive speed has to get their minds in the right spot as soon as you start talking about what you guys have seen.
Right.
And, go ahead.
Well, like I said, we've seen a lot of very open and receptive kids at the high school, and just encounters out like National Night Out. A lot of kids approach us, they talk to us, and they seem very receptive. So that's reassuring for me.
Well, and it's nice to hear citizens, because I talked about where I lived when I was a kid. Well, that same police officer is the same guy that played tag with us at night when we were running through the neighborhoods, and he'd shine his spotlight on us and tag us, and that was our fun with the police officer. We don't have those days too much anymore, but there's some other things that you guys do with all that you do to give back, with Shop with the Cop and different things to really build the bond back with the community. We have
the community policing unit that does that. They play dodgeball with the kids. They do a ton of stuff with the kids. They run the Explorer program for anybody interested in that. But our community policing is absolutely doing a phenomenal job interacting with not only the youth, but all kinds of citizens within the city.
How would you rate, and I'm asking you this because I know it's not going to be a bad score, but you've been around for what, 14 years, you said?
Yes, sir.
All right. So 14 years. Were you a police officer prior to?
Nope. Worked at Waste Management prior to this. So
wow. So at Northport?
No, I work for the actual company, Waste Management.
Oh, Waste. Okay, very cool. So you've kind of grown through this process of being a police officer, and it's interesting to listen to your perspective, because I think some of your background actually plays into how you are as a person today, with waste management and having to deal with people different, and I think that gives a different approach to you as a police officer, instead of full-time police officer, never been anything else. Not that that's bad,
right?
But we have to have a good blend of different types of personnel.
Absolutely.
I think that's what makes us a more well-rounded unit. Do you have that within the speed unit itself?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a bunch of guys with a bunch of different backgrounds, a lot of experience. One of our guys was one of our major crimes CID guys for years, worked homicides and all kinds of other stuff. He brings a wealth of knowledge. Like, again, when we get into these fatality crashes or serious bodily injury, we may have to write warrants for vehicle inspections or for blood draws, and the stuff that he brings to the table it's phenomenal. So we're very well-rounded, all kinds of different backgrounds, and we're all over the place, but it's a solid unit, very solid unit.
Fantastic. We got about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
I hope this hour went or 55 minutes went faster than you think it did. I think it went pretty daggone quick.
Yeah, it goes quick.
But is there anything you'd like to say to the citizens of Northport as far as from your fellow officers?
When you're driving, pay attention. Follow the signs. Put down the cell phones. Distracted driving is another big issue we have. Just pay attention. Monitor your speed. Wear your seatbelts. Get where you're going safely. That's it. That's all we're out here trying to do.
It's an A to B thing. You guys do it too. You're A to B. You're in your car. You're out at a location, and then you're working it. You're just in a mobile office, so to speak. As far as your safety, I give you guys kudos. I hope you guys stay safe. I hope we don't have any more incidences like they had down in Port Charlotte. I hope that 25 is an excellent year for us. I believe our city is going to grow and do some phenomenal things this year. I also see some things happening with the police department that I think are going to be, bigger and better. I think you're right about staff and leadership. I think their target is the best that we can be, and I think that not only starts inside the police department, but it's at City Hall with our city manager Jerome Fletcher. I think that with that mindset, and leading into that for you guys, I think it's going to be a big year for you guys.
Yeah, we are expected to grow pretty substantially over the next couple of years. With the population uptick that we've had, we need to grow to keep up, and everything appears to be on course to grow the department in the right way and put all the pieces in the right places to say that,
Fantastic. Well, thanks for being part of the show. Hope to have
Okay.
you on again, and thanks for taking time out of your day to educate the public.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good one, sir.
You too. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio saying thanks for listening in. Be safe, get home safe, get others home safe, and just keep your speed down. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Have a good one.